Okay, in this fifth demonstration, we're going to go ahead and start assigning some colors to sections. And if you go back to revisiting the color palette that we made, here I'm going to go ahead and open this. This is a revised version of what I made in the video. I went back and I fooled around with the colors some more to get a different color palette, and I re-exported this out again. And what's really terrific about this is that I have the hexadecimal numbers for the colors that I could use, and they should all work together in synchronicity and harmony. It sounds like a Beatles song or something, but in harmony with each other so that it's a succinct color palette. Now, the other thing too that is missing from this is the set of RGB values. RGB meaning red, green, and blue, and basically a hexadecimal value is a set of information where the first pair, the second pair, and the third pair are going to give you specific information about red, green, and blue, but they're using, like I said, hexadecimal values. If you wanted to go here, if you had downloaded your file, you could click on this and it'll take you to the Paladin.com website, and it will take you specifically to your palette that you had created. And what you can do then is go back over to tables, export, and then you can also get the RGB values where it says 21700. That would be red, green, and blue, where 217 in this example is red, and then there's 0 green and 0 blue. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to just keep that open for future use. And let's jump back over here to our file where we can do some testing. And I think what we decided that we're going to kind of do, I'm going to drag over my example that's a visible example of kind of what I was thinking about doing. And if you look here, we've got, first of all, there's a background image, but I'm not worried right now about the background image. So we have this orange that we want to do like in the banner section. And you'll notice that this is the nav up here, and it got sort of yanked out of the document flow and stuck up here. But don't worry about that just yet, okay? What we're going to do is just go ahead and start assigning some colors so that we can start to see these things take shape. So if you look at this, it's probably this bright orange right here. This FF6700 is what is something that would be about the right color. So what I could do is I could take that and copy that, and if I come back over to just do a test, and I can take a look-see, and I go to my section banner, you see, because we had already put in the placeholder for section banner rule, I can go over here and I can start to tell it background, and automatically it starts to pop a lot of longhand options up. Well, I can arrow over, but really I don't want to designate just background color. I want to designate background and shorthand because later I'm probably going to add some other things to it, and I don't want to have a bunch of longhand rules. So I'm going to do background and then hit the colon key, and now I can put my hexadecimal number. I have to start hexadecimal numbers out with a pound sign or a hashtag, and then I can paste that number, and then you see it automatically goes ahead and it takes effect on the screen. Okay, so now let's see, we've got this content section. Well, if you look at our example of kind of the way that we envisioned it, is we've got a content section, but everything here is sort of a different color. These are the articles. So this blue thing is the article, this my goals is an article, miscellaneous stuff is an article. So you might look at this gray thing and go, okay, well that must be the section, right? Well, one way to think about this is we could make the background of the entire document this gray color. So that's one option. So let's go ahead and see what happens if we do that, where we go up here and we tell the body to be a certain color. Okay, so right now we've got it set to EEE. Let's try like 777. That's a gray value. That's about the right color. If you look at this example, it's about the right color. And so now what we can do is, because that's in the very back, the furthest most of the background, it's the the granddaddy parent of the entire page. Now, if I give other things a background color, they will take a background color on top of that. So I could come down here to where it says section, ID, content, and then I can select article. And then you see over here, it goes ahead and it shows me my blank article rule that I created. And so if I want those to be blue, let's say that I want right now all of them to be blue. I can jump over here to my palette and I can see which one is the right color. And it looks like this palest blue is probably the right color. So I'll copy that hexadecimal number and I'll come back over here and I will go ahead and I'll add a background. And like I said before, I'll just arrow that over, colon, and then I need my hash symbol. And then what it did is it sort of made all of these that light blue color. All right, so far so good. And then my footer was orange. I think I wanted the header and the footer area to be, or the banner and the footer to be the same color. So I could go ahead and if I wanted, I could just click on the banner here and I can copy this whole rule. One of the ways that I could do this though is instead of just copying it, I could copy it here, right? So this is one option. I could copy it like this. And what I just did was I did a Command C on a Mac. It'd be Control C on a PC, Windows. Or I could go here to Styles. That's the other option. And I could find the rule in Styles. Let's just go down here and we'll find it like this and we'll select footer and then it's empty right now so I can paste and it goes ahead and it gives me the same thing. Now you're going to automatically start to see that some things are going on where there are all these weird margins and stuff. We'll take care of that in a little bit. And it basically is where the browser default style sheet is trying to add some stuff. And you see here, it's called the user agent style sheet. And if you were to look at this footer, you would go, well, wait a second, it doesn't say that there's a margin or anything. Well, it's not actually the footer that's doing that. It's actually the paragraph that is inside of it. I'm not going to click that because I'd lose all my styles. But if I were to click on one of these things, if I go into footer and click on copyright, or I click that one, you would see that it's got margin before, margin after. Those are actually the ones that are creating problems right here. And it's because it's the user agent style sheet or the browser default style sheet. Okay, so, but we're not going to fool with that right now. We'll worry about that stuff later. One thing though is while we are down here, I'll click back on footer again, and I don't like that, that this dark color is on for the text is on top of that orange. It's kind of hard to read. So I'm going to go down here and I'm actually going to tell the color for the footer to be white, and we'll do that as a pound FFF, and you see it goes to be white. Now it didn't turn the links white because, as I said before, the links are a little bit different, but we'll go ahead and set that for right now. The other things that we can do is we can do the same thing by setting that for the banner as well, and I could even just copy this if I wanted. Just copy that and go back up here to the banner, and we can add color and then make it pound FFF. Okay, and then we've got some other things going on though, is that we don't have the nav being a certain color. We do, however, in our example, have nav being a color up here. So it's sort of this brilliant blue. So what we can do is find nav in our section banner. So we'll expand that. And then here we've got nav. And then if I just select nav, I can come over here and I can give it a color. And then before we actually give it a color, let's go over and take a peek and see, what the closest color would be. And it's probably somewhere in this ballpark, one of these two colors, maybe this one. If you take a peek, it's probably something like that. And so I could come over and select nav and do background, colon, and then we'll do the hashtag. And you see that it's this really deep ultramarine blue, but now I've got a problem with my links because they're just not even readable. So let's see how we can change that. Let's we click back on nav, all right, and let's expand that to find our links. So inside of that is an unordered list. Inside of that is a list item. And inside of each list item is an A or an anchor link. Okay, so, and you'll see over to the right, it looks like these are all user agent style sheets. It means that we don't have anything defined yet right now for these link colors. So what we can do is, this is really kind of a cool thing, I can go over here and where it says element.style, it means I can start to add something new and create something new. I click this little plus symbol and you see it creates a tag called A, or a selector, excuse me, called A. And it's made a new inspector style sheet that's like a temporary style sheet. Well, I don't want this to just say A because I don't want every link in the entire page to turn white because that's the color I'm going to make them. What I can do is I can look at the descendant tree over here and figure out backwards how I should make this work. So first of all, you'll see that A's parent is the list item. So let's just go backwards one, and we know that A is inside of a list item. Okay, the list item is inside of a UL. Let's go and do UL like that. And then the UL parent is nav. So let's type nav. And because these are descendants of each other, we're putting spaces in between. Now nav's parent is not article. You see how article is collapsed? Nav's parent directly is the section whose ID is banner. So what we can do is come back over here and say section hashtag banner with no space, and then put a space after banner. And now this rule is going to be valid for A, any of these A links, and I'm going to tell it to have a color of white, and I'll do FFF. And you can see here that automatically they turned white in real time. Okay, and we're not going to worry about the bullets and stuff right now. We'll come back to that. But the other thing too I noticed is that where it says this is not the drawer you're looking for, if I right click and jump to that, let's say inspect element, it jumps over to the aside. And the aside has something for us waiting. And in the example, it was sort of like a green yellow color, right? So if we look at our palette and we take a peek at that, it looks like it's going to be this particular green color. So I'm going to copy that hexadecimal, and I'm going to go over here, and inside of my aside I'll say color, and because it's not a link it should work. Oh, and I forgot the hashtag. Got to do the hashtag, and you see it automatically updates itself. Okay, now there's another thing too that we didn't really style. I want to jump over to that, and and it's the main content section. We styled the articles so that they have a color, but right now you can see that we're looking straight through to the background color of the body. Remember, the body is that gray color, so we're looking straight through and we're not seeing a color for the content section. So it means that we haven't assigned one. But for now, I do want to have it for testing purposes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select section whose ID is content. And you see over here where we had created the empty spot. I'm going to tell it to have a background, and then I'll tell it to be FFF for white. And then you see now we can actually see that background color. And you don't see it down here because that section has ended. And this is helpful. It's going to be really, really helpful in allowing you to see where the boundaries of different things are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now, and I think this is a good time for me to go ahead and transfer a lot of the things that I've done so far. And so I can go and look where it says sources, and there are two things I've got. I've got my style sheet that I had modified, okay, where I'd put color and stuff in, things like that. I can select this entire thing, so I can go select all, which is Command A on a Mac or Control A on Windows, and copy it like this. Right click and copy. If I come over to Komodo Edit, I can just replace everything that's here. So I'm going to select all, and then I'm just going to paste it so that it's just a replacement. All right, and then the next thing is that there was something that wasn't saved in that style sheet, and it was in that inspector style sheet right here. Copy it, and then I can jump back, find the place. Here it is at nav. go ahead and paste it, save, then test.